What's going on, fellas? I figured I would do another one of these exercises I think you should probably have in your program. Now, I think my plan is to eventually make enough of these to where it'll be like those posts on Instagram where it's like, do this before you squat, or like necessary stretches, right? And if you compiled all of the things that people said you have to do before you squat, it'd take you about 2 hours to get to squatting, right? So at some point, I hope that this is big enough that you guys are going to have to exercise some discretion and say, okay, well, this isn't a real weakness for me. I'm already getting this from somewhere else. I can get away with not doing this one. Just because there's something I think that should be in most programs doesn't mean it has to be in yours. But I would like to throw them out there, have you guys try them for a few weeks. Hopefully you guys get to realize the benefits that I will purport to you that these exercises have. Maybe you do already know all of the good things these do for you, but this is the wake-up call to resume working hard on them and not just do 2 to 3 really shitty sets, see no progress, and never work hard because it's not a main lift. Hopefully, me going through each of these, you'll be like, oh, well, I do some pull-ups, but I don't work hard on them. I haven't been progressing, so I'm probably not realizing the benefits. This is my reminder to kind of get after it because it might help all of my lifts. So today we're kind of doing a 2-for-1. The first one I wanted to get out of the way is doing direct tricep work alongside your pressing. The reason we're not just doing this one is because those of you who watch my channel have heard me beat this horse to death and then keep beating it. Beating a dead horse for a long time on this one, but I'm a big proponent of usually when you finish your benching or your overhead pressing, the reason you can't handle more horizontal or vertical pressing volume is because your shoulders or your chest are pretty fried, but the triceps tend to have a little bit more work capacity. And just like how we finish up squatting, our back probably can't do much more, doing a little bit more squat pattern work that doesn't use our back to fill up that extra recovery capacity of our legs will usually make us a better squatter. I find the same thing to be true for the bench press. Once we finish benching, we got a little bit more recovery capacity of the triceps, filling that up with press downs, with skull crushers, with overhead extensions, tons of different options, just filling up that volume on a regular basis and progressing it across a wide variety of direct tricep exercises tends to bolster people's result in the long term in the bench press, especially if they really buy into that tricep work and they work really hard on it. So maybe this is your reminder. You have a little direct tricep work in your program. It's worth giving your all to that. Just like anything else in your program, if it's worth doing, it's worth going hard on. So I'd say it's a reminder to do it. If you've been skipping it, you should probably be doing it. But that's not going to be the main one for the episode because you guys have all heard me beat that point to death. The one I wanted to touch on today is the fact that we probably want some kind of knee flexion in our program, whether that be lying hamstring curls, seated hamstring curls, Nordic curls, or full glute ham raises, maybe like a cable hamstring curl. Maybe if you train in a home gym and you don't even have a glute ham raise, you don't have a way to do Nordics, you could just do banded hamstring curls for a lot of volume and drive a pump. Something is going to be a lot better than nothing here because the short head of our hamstring does not cross the hip. That's to say that it's not getting hit when we do our hip hinging focused hamstring work. So in the effort to kind of develop our body as a whole, and we don't want to leave out any major components, maybe reduce our injury risk slightly, we want to make sure that there's some knee flexion work present. So we could maybe look at this from a well-rounded development perspective, and that's why you should be doing it. We could maybe look at this from a injury risk reduction perspective, and that's why you should be doing it. The next thing I would say is it can definitely bolster your squat a wee bit. I find that while the hamstrings are not the most relevant primary mover in a squat, I find that having a good level of hamstring development gives people a much better perception of stability in the bottom of the squat. It almost gives you something to sit into, so to speak, because your hamstrings are contracting the entire way through a squat isometrically as kind of a stabilizer and a minor hip extensor. I do find that when people are strong at direct hamstring work, especially direct hamstring work from a deep stretch position, such as a seated hamstring curl, there's just this perception that their squat goes a bit better. And the real meat and potatoes, the real reason we're doing this is because I find it's a very, very good example of, well, why wouldn't you? As far as bolstering your deadlift, right? There is no spinal erector fatigue cost to any of these exercises, right? So even if we're fried from our squats and our deadlifts, there's no reason we can't fit it in. It's not going to be all that globally taxing. Our nervous system isn't going to be fried from doing hamstring curls. It might suck at the end, but you will see better results if you suck it up and put in 2, 3, 4 really difficult sets on the hamstring curl week after week, right? Because yeah, it might not yield direct carryover, right? Strength is task specific. So if we want to get stronger at hip hinging, which a deadlift is, we probably need to do things that are more like deadlifts to see direct carryover. But if we, week after week, and I've seen this in so many of my clients that do take their hamstring curls seriously, are just putting in 3, 4 sets 2 to 3 times a week, or probably 1 to 2, to be honest, 1 to 2 times a week, just 3 to 4 sets at the end of their deadlifting or their lower body centric workouts. The people who take that really seriously and they see year 1, they're doing a lot more weight than they were at the beginning of the year. Year 2, they're doing even more weight, just for their volume markers on the hamstring curls. It sets you up for a lot of future success on the deadlift. If you have bigger hamstrings, you can then train that increased muscle mass to then be strong and bolster your result in the deadlift. And it's very much like a why not. Maybe if you're strapped for time, it's maybe one of the first things that you could skip on that day. But if you can work it in, you can do a superset with maybe some upper back work following your deadlifts. It will bolster how long you get to ride out really solid progress. So I would definitely say that on any lower body centric workout, I would really like to see some kind of knee flexion in there. It could be as little as 1 hard set. And that's kind of the last point I want to drive home, which is don't just kind of go through the motions. You do need to go hard enough to see that improvement month after month after month to really realize all the benefits this exercise can offer you. So I guess we are on episode 3 now, a little 2 for 1 today. Usually I like to see some kind of unilateral leg volume in a program where we're looking to get some extra leg volume. I recommend you at least do a bit of it unilaterally. 2, what was it? We talked about how I think you should have some vertical pulling volume, whether that be pull downs or pull ups. We should be looking to run up volume on these non-globally taxing motions. Nice, like semi-localized fatigue to our upper back. We get to keep putting on mass to our upper back, which we can then transfer into being useful in our squat and our bench and our deadlift. Talked about filling up that tricep volume, kind of similar to how we fill up our leg volume. And then the other one that I really like to see in there is making sure that we do some knee flexion. Whichever one you like, you can rotate between them, but go hard. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing.